So welcome everybody to the Health and Fitness group. We are having a chat today with David in regards to, I would say, what I call a very intriguing topic, a topic I'm excited about. Um, he has done, I would say, laid the groundwork for a discussion on the well-being unplugged, how science improves the quality of life. So I want to welcome everybody in, and also, David, you can go ahead and take it away and get started.
Okay, just give me a moment. I will start presenting. So let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay, all right. Thanks. First of all, let me say just, thank you for having me. I'm a couple of months into the network and I've thoroughly enjoyed, the insight shared and the brotherhood spirit that I witness in the different chat rooms. So thank you very much. So today I'm going to be talking about well-being unplugged, and I've titled it as the science around improved well-being. Okay, so I'll just give a quick background around my story. So without going into the full on, from end to, the beginning, I'm going to start with a couple of years ago, I was faced with a profound challenge that threatened both my professional and my personal life. At this point, I was stripped of my cognitive abilities, which sent me into a state of vulnerability and uncertainty generally. Um, for those will might know me that might watch this later on, because I know a couple of people from the platform that we've been friends for a while. Um, I went from being an author, public speaker, traveling three different continents, sharing insights on professional development and personal development to a point where I was incapacitated with my cognitive function. And that was really predominantly because of multiple stresses around well-being. Now, I must point out that before then, I had been an advocate for well-being. I'd always gone out to the gym. I'd always gone out running. I'd seen myself as a physically fit individual, but somehow, as life happens to all of us, I found myself in that place, and that really ignited a spark within me that has fueled this unwavering desire to encourage around well-being. Now, while I still have businesses that I'm working on, and I'm still working with a pharmaceutical company, and I'm still doing all of those stuff that are not out, they're not precisely around well-being, including my political journey in the UK, I hold this really dear to my heart because I've come to believe that everything that we want to achieve in life is hinged on how well we're living, which is tied to well-being. So the way I call it is well living is well-being. So to I believe that we all have a well-being story, but the real question is, how do you share that story? And are you sharing that story? Whether you're C-suite executive or you're just what you will call an everyday person who's just got a 9 to 5 and you're just working and you're trying to take care of your family, you have a well-being story. It could be your personal well-being story. It could be your family well-being story. You have one. And the question really is, how are you sharing that? Are you sharing that? Because where we live today and where we found ourselves today as a community, especially within the Black community, we need to be bold and strong to share those stories. I grew up in a time where a lot of people shied away about talking about a mental breakdown because they were afraid that they will be stigmatized or they will be perceived as a weaker individual. But like I said, with my credentials, I was what you would call a high achieving individual. I had an honorary doctorate degree at the age of 33 from a university here in the UK, opened up a franchise store for TM Lewin in Africa, making millions at the age of 24 straight out of university. So I was, what you would call a high achiever in that sense. But I still fell victim to a breakdown. And the lesson I've learned from that and telling my story is actually a lot of people want to hear that story. A lot of people want to know they're not alone in this journey. Too often we wait for those high achievers, or maybe not consciously wait, but most of them will wait till those high achievers either commit suicide before we then said, oh no, this happened. But in them was that story that really needed to be told. And I've also found that by telling your story, you make a huge leap towards healing that is remarkable, that it's almost medicine almost can't solve it. You're confidently standing in your story and everything that's happened to you. So if we that's the story part. Let's not talk about the science and the trends and the industry, because I'm sure I'm talking to highly intelligent individuals will want to know about, tell me about the research around this. What's the industry saying? Now there are two key areas when it comes to well-being that I've sort of boiled everything down to, which is the self-help side of the industry, or the talk around well-being, and there's the clinical and science-based trends as well. So it's either of those two. You're either self-helping yourself either by listening to motivational quotes or cultural, a traditional approach to that. That's all self-help. But there's also the clinical science based. And I will be, after going through this experience, I will say that I do lean more towards the self-help more than the clinical science-based trends in some cases, not in all cases. And that's just because with oh sorry, I don't know why this didn't show up. I did update it just has the text there. I apologize for that. But the self-help industry really is, like I said, these individuals were talking about self-help. We're talking about meditation apps. We're talking about books and videos and YouTube videos that help in that sense. But the clinical based side of things are the medicals, the medicines that are being prescribed to individuals who do have well-being challenges. Oh, sorry. Nah, this is the wrong slide. Sorry. I'm gonna go back to that because I've updated that. And wait. Can we pause for a moment and I'll just come back? I don't know why this didn't update. So,
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
talking about technology, right?
All the time. All the time.
This is so strange because I worked on this and all of a sudden it's disappeared. Okay, let me just run through this without the presentation. I don't know what's happened with my presentation here.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So I'm just going to run through this without a presentation. I really apologize for that. I did save it, and all of a sudden it's disappeared. Okay, so the first part of what I was saying was around, self-help trends that you find in this space. But also when we then start to look at the breakthroughs and the big wins in this space, you have things like wearable devices. I'm sure you probably have a Garmin watch, Apple Watch, or Samsung Watch that you've got on. And that's been a huge breakthrough in the last decade for healthcare and well-being generally. What you wear in your arm, in your hand, on your hand, is so powerful. One of the things I had to do through my healing journey was start to look at my glucose level, my blood pressure levels, and follow that data, because you have that data in your hands that you sometimes might struggle with interpreting. Now, there are dashboards on these devices that help you sort of get a full picture of it. But my encouragement here is taking advantage of those breakthrough moments that we found with wearable devices. Another one is precision medicine, and precision medicine has really catapulted precise diagnosis and recommendations when it comes to medical treatments in this space. And you also have the influencers and the storytellers who have really helped to destigmatize mental health conversations. Whether you go on Instagram or you go on Facebook or YouTube, you will find someone sharing their individual stories, and that's really powerful. And we've seen that through post COVID, where people are feeling emboldened to talk about those stories. And the last breakthrough that I've identified in this over the last decade has been the accelerated vaccine validations that we found during COVID-19 as well. So there are quite a lot of breakthroughs here where medical pharmaceutical companies are collaborating more with each other to accelerate, a solution to a vaccine issue. Now, I know there's a political conversation around vaccines, and some people might be for it, some people might be against it, but it is still the data still shows that it's helpful in improving well-being across different countries and cultural backgrounds as well. And when we then look or zooming into mental health issues, there are three key things that have seen that rise in mental health issues that we find across the world. First of all, is higher stress levels. Now, there's a lot of global uncertainties, political uncertainties around the world. You're having wars breaking out in Gaza and different parts of the world. This all causing stress to people, their economic restraints, their financial disparities amongst communities, all creating higher stress levels for people. But you're also finding that there are limited and in most cases really expensive mental health support. Traditional mental health support can be costly, and even in the UK, for example, people have to wait for over 6 months to get help from the public service. So those restraints are there. But from a business standpoint, if I was to take my business hat, when I look at the existing solutions out there, there are also a lot of one size fits all approach to mental health. And mental health is complex, and mental health does affect physical health as well. I don't know if you've ever had a friend, a colleague that had a mental health challenge, a really maybe a PTSD or stress, and over 6 months or a couple of months, you start to find that they are having physical health challenges as well. Blood pressure is rising. That blood pressure then affects their eyes, for example, their vision, or they start to have or develop cancer as well, because stress does contribute to cancer. So that you can't really differentiate between mental health and physical health. So that brings and ties it all together generally. And my admonition is that we really need to be cautious. As much as we're looking at our physical health by going to the gym, we should also be thinking about our mental health. I started interacting with quite a number of people over the last 3 years around this space specifically. And when in my interrogations around them, I found that 7 out of 10 people had a physical health challenge, even though, I mean, a mental health challenge, even though they regularly went to the gym. And I know there's this trend about going to the gym, about, getting buff and looking buff, but looking buff does not necessarily mean that you are well on the inside. I remember this story of a friend who went running, and while he was running, this guy is much slimmer than I am, right? And he went running one day and he just had a heart attack while running. This was in New York, and he just had a heart attack while running. And we kept asking ourselves, how's that possible? This guy's physically fit. He goes to the gym 3, 4 times a week. How can that be possible? But we couldn't have the answer at that time. But as I delved into this space, I started to realize that you can be slim and still have diabetes. You can be slim and still have high propensity to having a stroke. So what EFRA, which is my company, has really been looking at is how do we start to match that from an AI technology standpoint and bring together that physical health conversation and mental health. What I would really love to see is, or during the Q&A is, I would love to hear your individual stories around how you correlate your mental health to the gym. Now, some people go, oh, well, if I'm feeling down, I go to the gym. Yeah, that's fine. But after the dopamine wears off, does how do you measure your mental health? How do you measure how you're feeling? Does that feeling come back, and does it come back stronger? And if it does, how are you addressing those concerns as well? And if I were to sort of just look at artificial intelligence in healthcare, artificial intelligence has really helped with diagnostics. It helps with complex data and brings different medical health data to provide some level of a clearer picture or precision around potential of a mental breakdown, for example, a physical health condition. So artificial intelligence has really helped in this space as well. When it comes to genomics and genetic therapies as well, that's also been really a groundbreaking area of study as well. 2 days ago, I went into I went for a walk, and I saw this thing that said vampire facials. And my curiosity got the best of me. So I walked in there and I was like, okay, actually, let me go in there and find out what this is about. I found out that it is basically they take blood from your body, they analyze that blood, and you can use that for hair growth if you are having hair loss, or if you're having some molds on your face, or things that you want to work on when it comes to your face. But it's actually gotten from your genome, from the genome sequencing that is done on your bloods as well. So this is also a groundbreaking science area as well that we can definitely delve into a bit deeper. When it comes to telemedicine, for example, that's also been helpful. 8 out of my 10 sessions in my initial first sessions with my therapist were all conducted over the phone. So I didn't really need to go into into a physical space to see my therapist face to face. So telemedicine also has been helpful. In Africa, for example, we are finding that remote diagnosis and patient monitoring is growing in Kenya and parts of Nigeria as well. So telemedicine is also a scientific breakthrough within this space generally. So I know I've got about 20 minutes, but because my presentation is not, out there, I would have wanted to go into a bit more of the technical details around what I've found in this space. But I would just sort of round, talk about 5 different strategies that we can apply, practical strategies that we can apply when it comes to using science to monitor our health and improve our well-being. First of all is utilizing sort of AI-driven apps that analyze your genetic data and lifestyle and dietary habits. There are those wearable patches that you can wear on your arm to help you understand how your body reacts to certain food as well, because food and our dietary habits go a long way in contributing to our well-being in general. I grew up in Nigeria, even though I'm based in the UK, and it was always when I got into the UK and I started hearing people talk about allergies, it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, no, I can eat everything other than human beings, right? Um, I don't have any allergies. And some people would say, well, that's probably because, you've been exposed to um, to diseases at an earlier stage and your body has built up the resilience to that, right? But as I've gotten older, I've started to realize that certain food creates certain moods. Certain foods create certain moods in me. They affect how I feel on certain days. So protein diets, for example, I found are very helpful when it comes to my well-being. So I've had to cut down on the carbs. And this is not just talking about carbs and diabetes and things like that, but also just your mood in generally how you feel. Second one is around remote health monitoring for chronic conditions. So if you do have a chronic condition, my encouragement is that you incorporate wearable devices, as I've mentioned earlier on. If you want to understand your sleep patterns, you can use that also to monitor your sleep patterns. Now, when it comes to sleeping, if I'll go into that just a little bit, with sleeping, there are deep sleeps, there's light sleep, and there's REM sleep. Most of us, or most of the research out there, talks predominantly about how many hours of sleep you need. So you would hear people say things like you need 7 hours of sleep. Some people say you need 6 hours of sleep. But I do know of a really successful businessman in Nigeria, one of the biggest billionaires in Nigeria, who only sleeps 4 to 5 hours. And he's done that for most of his life. And he's 65 or 60 plus at this point in his life. I guess maybe scientists will have to research him and understand how he's able to survive on that. But my premonition is that it's not how long you sleep, but how well you sleep. And that's where that conversation around deep sleep, light sleep, and REM sleep comes in. And that's where your wearable devices can really help you to understand how much REM sleep that you have. The more REM sleep you have, the better your memory improves. The more REM sleep you have, the better energized you feel when you wake up. I don't know if you've ever had a moment where you slept for really long hours, but you woke up really tired. And that's most likely because you had less REM sleep. Even though you slept 7 hours, you probably only had about 15 minutes of REM sleep. Average, you need about an hour to 2 hours of REM sleep if you really want to perform at the highest level. So that's what you want to work on when it comes to your sleep monitoring. But generally, when it comes to chronic conditions, you want to track your vital signs such as blood pressure, glucose levels, heart rate. All of these things would allow for timely consultations in cases where you might need it, because the future of science is not cure as much. Big pharma companies are moving away from looking for drugs and cures for diseases to actually preventative medicine, and that's where you can partner with these your doctors and your physicians to help you. But you wouldn't know that, or you wouldn't partner well with them except you are informed, because most physicians and clinicians have they've studied maybe a pattern from research that they've done, but when you delve deep into the data they have, you wouldn't believe that only about 3 to 8% of the medicines that we have in across the world has been clinically tested on Black people. So you most of the medicines that are being prescribed to Black people have been tested on their white counterparts. So genetically, there's been no genetic correlation or analysis to see if that would react differently in a Black in a Black audience. Now, I do know that we have historical issues around clinical research and testing, but perhaps we're going to have to just overcome that to improve the quality of medicines that are being prescribed. But that's a political conversation. Third is AI powered mental health support. The encouragement is to engage in AI-based mental health platforms, chatbots, virtual therapists that all provide immediate support, and guided CBT sessions or mindfulness exercises. There are some really good apps out there. When we do fully launch in the market, I hope that you would, use our products as well. But there's so many products out there that are AI-based mental health platforms that can help you with, a quick question on a certain issue that you might be dealing with, for example. The fourth one is on virtual fitness coaching with AI insights. There are a lot, there's a lot that AI algorithms can do to analyze your fitness data, such as your movement patterns, to help you understand how you feel at a particular time when you feel your best, what day of the week you feel your best as well, in order for you to go to the gym and then you can bang out those sessions and those reps because you feel at your best at that point. And you can also have personalized workout plans and injury prevention strategies from that point. And then the last, it will be around telemedicine for routine and preventative care. You need to be able to leverage telemedicine services for regular checkups. There are apps out there that you can sign up to, where you can just dial a doctor and just do a regular checkup. Well, I've just noticed this growth on my pinky toe, for example. You can easily send pictures and look at that. I had that in my case where I had a doctor on the dial and I just took a picture and I sent it over to the doctor, and they gave me a diagnosis remotely. So these preventative screenings and follow-up appointments using telemedicines can really be helpful. So yeah, those are the 5 key points that I would want to focus on, or I mean, I would like to end with. But just in conclusion, there are quite a lot of breakthroughs out there. Technology has really helped us. It's leveled the playing ground when it comes to personal healthcare and well-being. And my encouragement is, don't shy away from using artificial intelligence to help you understand how you feel, or even to help you understand your data. You can also request to download your data from these wearable devices, plug it into an AI machine, and get it to do some work for you and research, okay, people with similar data, how did they deal with this blood pressure? How did they bring their blood pressure down in 3 months or 6 months, in that sense? Because what technology helps us to do is that it reduces the time that is needed to get to your full health, to the point where you feel completely well. As I mentioned about my story, when I do speak to psychotherapists and to clinicians, they're really surprised how I was able to get my cognitive function back within 6 months. Now, I do have a model that I used, but it's going to sound like a sales pitch. So I'm not going to go into that. But I wouldn't have been able to come up with that model without the use of technology and science. And by no means am I discouraging the use of clinical support, medicine. I'm only saying that with your information, you have more than enough information, science information in your on your watch or your phone that you can use to help clinicians better hit diagnosis at a faster pace.
No, that's good. No, I definitely appreciate the presentation. I think for me, I'll answer your question of when we having those moments, so to speak, and you go to the gym, are you feeling better? But then after that dopamine slows down, how, if that feeling comes back, what are you doing, or how you interacting, how are you going about it? I know for me, having balancing the cognition part versus the self-help versus the physical. Then I think I will also add in there like emotional intelligence and things of that nature, self-awareness. I think those are all tools you get from, I would say, doing the work and putting in the effort of like going to therapy or counseling or what have you, or seeing a psychotherapist if you need those type of things, or a psychiatrist. So I think going to the gym does help, but to your point of for your mental capacity, understanding your stressors, where you are in life, what things are actually stressing you out, but then also seeking out the help, right? And to your point of having the tools available, whether it's going to see somebody or whether you can pull up like a AI chatbot and say, "Hey, I'm still feeling like this after my workout or after all these things," and for something like an AI chatbot to give you either some resources or tools to kind of help you steady yourself even after the workout dopamine hit is gone. I think it's very beneficial. I think also we had talked about just in the things that you're developing and doing to kind of bridge the gap between technology and well-being, right? It's very important, it's very needed because most people, I would say generally everybody, is attached to their phone these days, whether they're, on social media, sending emails, or just browsing, shopping, or what have you. Technology is very involved. So to have your, say, your mental well-being taken care of while you're on your device already, and for it to give you um, mental health, physical health, emotional health as well. And if you want to throw in spiritual health also, to kind of make you put you in a more holistic position to be an overall better person. I think that's very advantageous. And in your research and in your work, I think it'll be very fruitful because you can have, five different apps doing five different things. But if you have one app that kind of centralizes everything, right, where I can get my physical, mental, spiritual, emotional kind of well-being all taken care of in one via questions and support, even if it's from AI or an actual person. I think that is very beneficial and speaks to, I would say, like a trend of the times.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I the the challenge I've found in this space has pretty much been the data element, right? Where you can get the collaboration between these wearable devices and those platforms to actually release that data enough for you to be able to do that. Because um, if you don't have that data, you wouldn't know much, right? You
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to do it. You wouldn't be able to analyze that yourself. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the other part when you talk about like privacy and all those type of
Mhm.
things. If they if it is my data, right? You're collecting my data. Like, why shouldn't I have access to it to be able to download it and be able to,
Exactly. Mhm.
parse that data and put it over here to get details that may help me live, throughout my everyday life and help me function properly and help me live a better life. So I think that's the other part of jumping over that hurdle because it is my data. So why not let me have access to it? And I'm pretty sure there's some way to give me access to that, to the everything you've tracked ever since I've had this smartwatch, cell phone, or what have you. So that way I can help myself out
Mhm.
in a better way.
Yeah. But it is the future. We got, I think with regulations, there are regulations like GDPR that are being re-looked into. So to see how you can push that more to the individual, where they do feel like they own the data, they can get
Hmm.
their data at any point, and they can take that to their doctors. So the regulations still need to be worked on, but their progress around that already. So eventually, I think we would get to that point where you feel like you know what's going on within your body. I know in the UK, you had to opt out from big corporations. So buying your data, your healthcare data from the NHS. Um, and if you didn't, then it's all theirs to sell, and that's an ethical issue. that still needs to be discussed. But I think with more people knowing the power of the data in their hands, right, the better or the closer we get to that point.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think now even I know for like Apple devices and stuff like that, it's a pop-up now when you download or haven't used the app in a while. It's like, do you want this app to track your data and stuff like that? So like to your point, we know it's being stored somewhere.
Mhm.
We know they have it somewhere. It was a matter of getting access to it, being that it is mine. It's nobody else's information. It's specific to me. So I think understanding that and or getting access to the information will be crucial. Um, and I know that's probably like an uphill battle, but I think it's a necessary battle to for us to for our overall well-being. So then that way, to your earlier point of like when we go to the doctors and stuff like that, of saying, hey, for ourselves, we have a pattern of like, oh, this is my sleep over this period of time. This is how I'm sleeping. This is like what I'm going through while I'm sleeping or when I'm working out. This is what I'm seeing. To have that as kind of like I would say to kind of advocate for ourselves um when we're having medical visits and things of that nature.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just thinking of the I had an experience with a psychologist, right? And we were talking about, you know, the what you would call my experiences. And it was much easier for the therapist to go down, the path of what they knew, which was
Mhm.
okay, if you're showing these patterns, then you're potentially, you know, schizophrenic, for example. But no, it's not schizophrenia, right? Because it is based on the information that I understand about myself and the things that I've researched into. I know better not to diagnose myself as schizophrenic, right? And I
Right.
wonder if there are a lot of diagnoses out there that have been wrongly diagnosed and people go down that rabbit hole with a wrong diagnosis, and that's where precision diagnosis and artificial intelligence can really play a big role.
Yeah, with the AI, I know everybody's kind of, trying to get used to AI, but it's unavoidable. I
Mhm.
think the other part of if they I'm pretty sure it's gonna come down the line of like some type of governmental regulations and guidelines of how to go about how to use it, protect overall users. Because when you get into stuff like deep fakes and all that, you want to kind of have some metrics around that. But I think it's unavoidable. So I would say, of course, everybody do your research, learn as much as you can, and but then also don't be afraid to use it. I know a lot of people, especially in like older generations, and even some of the younger generations, they're scared of change and things evolving. But it's just a way, society is submit to change and evolve. So,
Mhm.
in order to, I would say, stay consistent with the times, just be, I would say, be open to the change, and then tap into it, see how you can use it, to kind of learn more about yourself. Like we're talking here of like tracking health trends.
Mhm.
And so then that way you can be better benefit yourself. Because if I could pop into AI and say, hey, I'm looking to lose 10 pounds over the next, 5 months or so. And this is my current health data from my Apple Watch, right? And
Mhm.
this is how I've been sleeping. This is how it's been tracking my heart rate and when I'm doing my current workouts. So taking that and how does that apply to help me lose these 10 pounds over the next 5 months? I think it's very beneficial. Or give that to AI. You don't have to do your brain work yourself. You don't have to look at all these dietitians or nutritionists. You don't have to go get a personal trainer. If AI can take all that and say, hey, do X, Y, and D, get this amount of sleep, do this meal plan, do these type of workouts, and you'll meet your goal at the end of these 5 months. Plus, in addition, talk to me about my mental well-being and my emotional well-being and things of that nature. I think that's very beneficial than going out spending maybe, with the personal training things, you can be spending upwards of like $200 a week trying to get in shape or something when you could just, AI generate it and it already has all your data and it can kind of it can grow with you over time because as your lifestyle changes, you can do different things and just input that data and it's tracking all of that to be specific to you as an individual. So I think it's very beneficial.
Yeah. I also don't think it completely wipes out the need for a personal trainer in that case, for example, right?
Hmm.
With, I think it might just sieve down the, it might reduce the numbers, right? And you have to, how can I put it? You have to have better soft skills as a personal trainer. For example, you have to have additional value that you provide to people in order for that to happen. Because regardless of how much information AI is able to produce for you, you still need someone to help you through that journey. It's like you can't completely take out community. Any
Hmm.
society that's taking out the community spirit will have more other challenges that will spring up. It's inevitable, right? And you find it in this side of the globe, right, where community is not as much of a big deal as in other community like Asian communities, or for example. And you'll find that they some of the issues they deal with, um, depression, for example, you find less depression around community based societies than you find in non-community based societies, right? So even with artificial intelligence, you will still need the hand holding. You would still need a professional to help you through that, even if it's just the encouragement, or the commandeering that you need in order for you to keep going, and the resilience that you need. As much as you and I know, we still feed off, other other professionals will know as much or even more or even less. You will still listen to that because there's still wisdom coming out from that individual lived experience that is different from your lived experience.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's more like to your point, it's more of a complement to what you're doing and not a supplement, right? Because to your
Mhm.
point, community matters and everything, and without community, you don't overall grow, and you can't solely depend on like the artificial intelligence, but it is a great complement to what you're already doing or what you can do going forward.
Yeah,
And so that's why I think it is a tool to use, just like to use the analogy of like you can't, necessarily hammer in a nail through some wood with your hands. Like you need an actual hammer. You need a
exactly.
tool
Mhm.
to help you out. So I think that putting AI in that framework of it,
Mhm.
using it as a tool to kind of like help you along to complement what you're going through in life, from a mental standpoint, emotional, physical, to like the overall well-being of you. I think it's necessary and just on par for like the way we can blend technology with the current state of things, being concerning our overall well-being.
Yeah, because technology will, break down at some point. Like in my case, I've spent 2 hours on that presentation, and all of a sudden it's disappeared. Right, it's reverted to my first draft. Right, but if I didn't know my onions, right, I wouldn't be able to present.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So technology in itself is, it's like you said, it's a tool, right? And
Hmm.
talking about the deep fakes and those issues, again, anything can be weaponized. Absolutely
Hmm.
anything can be weaponized. Um, but we've been using artificial intelligence for a long time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been predictive text on your phone has been artificial intelligence.
Right. It just wasn't called that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not Chat GPT. Chat GPT, or the trend now, is not what is not um the the beginning of artificial intelligence. We've been using artificial intelligence from the day we started using our phones. And artificial
Right.
intelligence is just basically stored data, right? Analyzed to give a predictive next step. That's all it
Mm-hmm.
is, right? So in itself, talking about the concerns around artificial intelligence and the concerns around technology in that space, it's I think it's people being scared for, I wouldn't say nothing, because it does have an impact on jobs, no doubt. Um, but I think we might be over exaggerating the issues or
Mm-hmm.
the threat it brings, right? If someone creates a deep fake about someone, then you, authentic person, come out and deny it, right? Simple as, right? Yes, it might damage your image and stuff like that, and whatever the case is, right? But the truth will always prevail. Eventually,
Mm-hmm.
it will come out that is deep fake. So either way, what your concern, in a way, if I was to take that philosophical bend, is it's almost like you're dying, you're burying yourself before you die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's good. I think that's an overall great point. I think with that, it's just a matter of, I would say, people getting adjusted to the way things are trending, right? Because a lot
Mhm.
of the resistance is just like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to take the time to learn. I don't want to take the time to engage with it, so that it can kind of, like, in a sense, learn me and learn my nature and my ways. So I think the resistance is more, as with anything, is more people based, right? We get it in our own way. We don't want to change with times or anything like that. So I think overcoming that resistance by the good outweighing the bad,
Mhm.
of like, hey, I think that goes back to the technology part of, like, shoring up the overall security of AI and how you access it, and the reputable sources, and the reputable people who are presenting it. I think will overall make the difference, in going forward, because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and where the I mean, where government and regulatory bodies will coming is, right, is making sure that the artificial intelligence machine is making it clear with a disclaimer, right? A good artificial intelligence platform will tell you, right, don't, this is um, a suggestion, right? You still need to speak to a clinician. So the platform
Hmm.
I'm building, for example, it's very clear we are not a diagnosis platform. We're not going to diagnose you because we can't do that,
Right.
right? It takes, even if, going back to my example of, my therapist taking a statement or a conversation during our session to infer, some other diagnosis, right? It's the same thing with a technology. If it does that way, right, it can take all of that information, but if it puts it in a way where it says you could X,
Hmm.
or you will need to speak to this clinician, and what the platform aims to do is say, okay, this is the information we have about you. Would you like to speak to this clinician to get better understanding on that? Now, I think that's a more intelligent way of using artificial intelligence,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
still need someone who's been in that space, who understand patterns based on lived experiences that they've had, right? And they're
Right.
able to say, okay, yeah, this is it. And then you can have a medical diagnosis that follows up from there, as opposed to, well, I read it on Chat GPT, um I must have 6 months to live. Right? No, no, it's that's not the case. It's not the case, right?
Right. Right.
It's, a million people may have shown that, but you could be one out of a million that is not going to whose symptoms do not indicate cancer or developing
Hmm.
cancer, right?
Yeah.
So context will change the conversation, but you need a professional to help you contextualize it in a
Right.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why going back to our examples, like that's why it's a tool. It's just an addition to kind of like, point you in the right direction, but then also say, hey, seek medical professional assistance,
Mhm.
seek the help of a personal trainer, like whatever you're trying to do as far as mentally, physically, emotionally, like seek professional assistance. This is only like a guide or a tool to have that caveats in there,
Mhm.
and to provide the necessary guidance
Mhm.
of like, hey, don't just go out here and do this on your own. Don't self-diagnose.
Mhm.
Don't try to do this all by yourself. This is only a tool to help you as you go throughout life. So I think that's a good point to make.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think more people within the technology space need to sort of speak out more to alleviate that concerns, because they are genuine concerns, no doubt,
Hmm.
right? But more people need to understand that it's not going to completely replace. In fact, if I use ChatGPT for brainstorming, I still have to read the output. I still have to interpret that output in the context of what I need to use it for. I can't
Hmm.
just copy and paste,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because if I copy and paste, right, I might not get the results that I was intentionally looking for. Now, I might get a result, I might get, some sort of outcome, but that outcome wouldn't align with my North Star, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the more people understand that, the better. Because even if you, with a predictive text on your phone, you don't use predictive text for all your conversations.
Right. 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 Yeah, that would
So
be
you're
crazy.
you're still going to be smarter than the technology always.
Hmm.
And that's that's my motivational speaker coming out, right? That you're always going to be smarter than the computer. It's no doubt. You can turn it off and turn it back on, and it'll come back on. I can guarantee you, I can dig out the version of my presentation that flopped.
Hmm.
I will find it, right? Because I did work on it.
Right.
And even if I've lost it, I can recreate it,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that information came from me. I have my notes that I made before I
Hmm.
then put it in that computer.
Right.
So the computer, in a sense, will not outsmart me. It can outsmart me for for a point, but I would always be, higher than this, right?
Hmm.
Move away from that apocalypse story of, AIs will have the minds of their own.
Right. 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 Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Anyway,
Now
but
that's
no, great conversation. I'm so sorry my presentation flopped. Um, I'll look into it, and I'll share it with, people on the platform as well.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, once you get that straight, you can just upload it to the chat, and we'll go from there. And then once the recording is out, I'll post that so that everybody can see the conversation and follow along with the presentation how you had it. But other than that, man, I definitely appreciate your time. I appreciate you for just speaking on the topic of kind of like unplugging for your well-being and getting putting everything together so neatly. It was definitely a great conversation. I'll give you any closing thoughts or comments you want to leave with everyone.
Well, my closing thoughts really is, well-being is well living, right? And well-being doesn't just have to be physical. It's not about how buff you look. It really is what's going there. Are a lot of things that go on inside of you, in your brain, in your mind, in your heart, in all the organs in your body that you can't completely know, no matter how smart you think you are. There are people who have dedicated years of studies in that field. Lean on them. The encouragement is only that you know enough to be able to have an intelligent conversation, to be able to look at the different um, diagnosis or possible diagnosis to whatever issue that you face, so that you can get to the end goal of really holistic well-being.
Nah, that's good. I think that's a perfect bow to put on the end of it. Again, I definitely appreciate your time. As always, I'm here if you need me. You need anything, we'll chop it up.
Sure,
But other
mate.
than that, man, you enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and I look forward to speaking to you later.
All right. Thank you very much, bro.
All
Take
right,
care.
have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.